Yeah, there's two things that I think about when it comes to growing food. I think anything that is satisfying in our life comes after a bit of struggle. So whether that's like, you know, the high after a run or going in the cold water, you know, it's hard at the time and you know, you don't want to go in there, but after it, you're like, thank God I did that. But it's only nice because you've gone through that struggle. And then growing food, it's like, that waiting game, that patience for it. And so I don't mind, you know, sowing the seeds I actually can't wait to sow the seeds in January, February and March and know that I'm not going to harvest probably a lot of the food until July, August time. But that's what makes it so exciting. And that's why we respect the ingredients so much more. And that's why it tastes so much better. I met an amazing farmer in Mexico and he called it a silent revolution because it doesn't look like you're holding a revolution when you just build a raised bed and start harvesting your food from there. But really, you're like saying F you to the local shop who may be spraying pesticides all over your food, and you're harvesting nourishing food that's going to make you and your family thrive. So it really is a silent revolution because you're just going about your revolution in peace in the garden. So I like that element of revolution to growing food.
So first up, Gaz, it's a real honor to have you.
Really is. So
admire your work. Beautiful work.
Well, we've been in conversation for years, haven't we, really? And fine, I can't believe it's taken this long for me to get here, so I do apologize, but oh my God, I wish I came sooner. It's incredible what you're doing. Absolutely amazing. I'm so full though about the amount of food you've been feeding me since I got here. It's crazy.
There's a lot of food. You're ready to blow.
Yeah, great. Well, let's kick it off with like what led you to become, like, if you could go through a kind of short, your hero's journey.
All right, I'll keep it short.
A quick hero's journey to bring anyone up to speed that doesn't know you.
Well, I grew up in Cardiff in Wales. I'm very proud to be Welsh, actually. And most kids in Wales, most boys especially, want to play rugby for Wales. So that was my earliest passion.
What position did you play?
I was outside half.
Oh, nice.
You probably could have guessed that. My kicking wasn't the best, but I was very skillful. I could throw a great double dummy. Left-handed, left-footed.
Oh, nice.
My dad was the coach, and it was great. I wanted to play rugby for Wales, and I was just saying I came over to Dublin when I was 12, and we did like a exchange. So I went and stayed with an Irish family, and that was amazing. So that was my only experience actually visiting Dublin before now. But I realised when I got into high school that my sort of stature wasn't made for rugby. I was getting absolutely bulldozed by everyone that shot up. I just stayed the same height. So I reached my peak at rugby age 11, actually. This is such a shame. And I played every sport. And any time I was in school, I was always looking out at the sports field, or I was doodling in my book. I was never really... I never really enjoyed school, to be honest with you. I was too creative, I feel, and too just wanted to be outside.
Two straight lines.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and then I was just cooking at home with my dad because that's what he did every night. He was just inspired by like Jamie Oliver, and he actually got sort of brought up not having the best food at home. So I think when he had us, me and my sister, he just started experimenting in the kitchen every evening. And I would just help him out. I saw his sharp knives and the flames he was using, and I thought I'd get involved with it. And I realized that was a good way for me to be creative. And I really enjoyed it. And there was an opportunity to take catering or cooking class at 14 during GCSEs, and suddenly I was the best pupil in the class. And like my classmates were you know, they would learn how to make a bolognese, but I was making a fresh pasta. Like I was really excelling, and it felt amazing for once to be like the star student. So instantly then I knew that I just wanted to be a chef. So age 15, I got a part-time job at a local hotel restaurant. I was going into the kitchen after school. And then at 16, when you could leave school, I became a full-time chef, which...
Just had enough of school and good luck.
Really did, yeah. I just went for it. I really wanted to follow in the footsteps of like Marco Pierre White, who got he was the youngest person to get 3 Michelin stars. I was determined. And looking back now, 16 years old, my poor parents, bless them, they told me what it was like, the industry, and they were scared for me really to go into that environment. And I was straight away I was doing like 70-hour weeks. I got a little scooter, a moped to get back and forth, and that was just a nightmare as well, falling off it.
And when you're working in kind of fine dining in these kind of higher, more echelon restaurants?
Yeah, I moved around and that was my thing, fine dining. I was really like a sponge, really. You want to soak up all the knowledge from all the chefs around you. And I loved it. It was my thing.
And was it like the way you see it in TV shows, like a Gordon Ramsay type thing, where it's yes chef, no chef, and very hierarchical and
because I was the youngest, I always had to prove myself, and it was always difficult. But it was the thrill of that service is something that I still crave and miss today, actually. But after a few years of working around and experienced different kitchens, I actually got a bit burnt out that, doing those hours from such a young age. So I needed a break from the industry, and I just got a sales job and was doing like a 9 to 5 for a while. And actually, I'm so glad I did that now, because I realized that when you're not following your passion or purpose, you can fast become quite sad in life. And I was thinking, is this all that life is? Just getting up really early in the morning, not really wanting to get out of bed and go and do this job that wasn't fulfilling me. And luckily enough, and it was obviously like a godsend, I was actually training in the gym because I wanted to play rugby again. I had this dream to play.
It was back in it, from 3 Michelin stars to back to your rugby
exactly.
dream.
I was like, I had this spare time after leaving the kitchen, so I was just going to the gym every evening, eating colossal amounts of food, like 5,000 calories, to put on all this weight, full of animal protein.
To pursue your rugby career.
Yeah, it was like the old chicken, broccoli and peas. That
it was chicken, rice and veg. That was it, basically every meal of every day, and it was really boring. But having eaten that for a good year or two, I just wasn't feeling good. I was going to the gym every evening, but feeling so sluggish. And I just started seeing more and more about a plant-based diet and thought, all right, I'll give it a go. And I gave it a go for 2 weeks. I thought I'll give it a go for 2 weeks.
And what was the catalyst? Like, what was the thing? Because there must be some spark that made you go, okay, I'm going to try this.
Well, I was having like stomach pains. I just didn't feel, as I said, I didn't feel good. I was feeling sluggish and that pain. And also then I was seeing, I don't know if you know JME, the rapper. He's a vegan rapper, and he was tweeting all the time about being plant-based, and the stuff he was sharing was like, oh, that's interesting. Or, talking about animals and, dairy, for example. Like, I think he talked about that quite often, and it just resonated with me a little bit. And then I watched a few documentaries, and I just thought, I'll give it a go. And literally that first meal I had after having chicken, rice and veg for so long was so vibrant and exciting for me. So I just thought I'd stick at it. A month went by and I was feeling amazing. The stomach pain left me, and I just felt this sort of zest for life and a weird feeling to just want to go and hug trees and stand in nature, which was strange because I was a city boy then. That was really interesting.
Did you secretly sneak out and hug trees?
I wasn't that connected with nature back then, to be honest with you, but I did feel this sense of wanting to be around a more nature-filled environment. And it was so funny going into my sales job at the time with this weird food, they called it, and no one knew what it was. Like I brought in avocado once. They were like, "What are you eating?" But I was eating it like an apple, so it's kind of weird. I did remove the skin, and so that actually encouraged me to start like sharing pictures of the food that I was creating at home on Instagram, just so people would stop asking me what on earth you're eating. Even my parents was really confused at what's he doing now type of thing.
Like that, he's really lost his way.
Yeah.
Kind of
a little bit like that. And then after realizing that my skills from the kitchens were helping me create this really vibrant, tasty, nutritious food, and I wasn't missing out on anything, I decided to start sharing photos on Instagram. Before I knew it, people from everywhere were following me. I got to 7,000 Instagram followers. I thought I made it, quit my job and just put everything into
and that
it.
Was it. And you just decided this is it. I'm going all in on this.
I did, because I was so just down about my job at the time and my lifestyle, and I didn't have that purpose that cooking gave me in this sales job, that I finally found it. I was like, this is so fun. Like I really got into cooking originally because I love serving my food to people. And when I was in the kitchens, actually, I didn't get that sense of satisfaction that much, because when you're in the kitchen, often they're closed off. And, I was pestering the waiter when he would clear the tables. What did they think of my soup? What did they think of this? And he would just go, oh yeah, they enjoyed it. But I really wanted to see their faces and their reaction. I would go on like Google reviews after and see if anyone mentioned anything about my dish.
Gaz's soup was incredible.
But with what I was finding off Instagram at the time, this is 7 years ago now, is wow, people actually really like that. The look of that dish, and they've recreated it and they've tagged me and they said it was delicious, and I thought, okay, this is actually really fulfilling, and I could spread my food and my message through social media, and I just thought, yeah, let's keep going at it. Thank again my parents to let me live at home rent free to just.
And was there any kind of like from your dad, like kind of the structure to go, Gaz, you need a plan, give me a plan, like where are you going with this? It was like, nah, go do it, Gaz. We got your back.
It's mainly my mum that is a bit like that, actually. And but no, she was so supportive because I think they just saw how unhappy I was in the job at the time. And they didn't mind me taking over their kitchen experiments, and as long as they were eating some of the food. So, and shortly after, they went plant-based as well too. So it was a win-win. I'm so grateful for them.
And what led to that? Because like, you know, I remember the resistance of our parents when we first came home and said that we were eating a different way, and Mom definitely wasn't. Really? It wasn't just like that. It was. It took years.
Yeah. Well, I rang my mum up at the time when I just went vegan because they were away on holiday, and my mum said, "What is that?" They didn't have a clue what it was. But my mum is so compassionate, and my dad is too. Actually, really, really compassionate. And as soon as I sat them down and shared a few videos with them, and talked about the animals, they were on board, and they are open-minded, so they gave it a go. And my dad, as I said, is a great cook, so he was able to cook some really nice food, and they don't miss out on anything really. So
we partner with Instant Brand, and they really are helping people and helping us rethink the way we cook. One of my favorites is their Vortex VersaZone air fryer with a clear cook window. It's got this big drawer where, like, I know there's a craze about air fryers, but this is the air fryer of air fryers. I love it. Yeah, it really is. They also got a Vortex Plus air fryer oven. There's an Instant Pot Superior slow cooker, which is really cool because you can actually saute first before you slow cook, all in the same pot. And it's a great way of making healthy food just easy to cook.
It really is. Well, like I honestly use the air fryer and the Instant Pot all the time. Like I genuinely do at home.
Click the link down below in our show notes and avail of these wonderful ways to rethink the way you cook.
How did you get going on YouTube? Because that was where we first came across you. I remember we committed to YouTube, and we were part of Jamie Oliver's, what was it called? Food Tube Network.
Right, yeah,
and we used to go up to London, and we thought it was the most amazing thing ever, and we were putting loads of work in it. And then we saw this fella from Wales putting out these beautiful videos. I remember maybe it was Shawnee, you said it. It was like, wow, this lad's cool. They're beautiful. Where did he come from?
You, yeah.
How did you get started with all that?
Well, I remember seeing you guys back then as well, and actually Jamie's Food Tube. I was in talks with them, and they liked my first video, which made me so happy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, YouTube was a whole new ball game because I decided, I'd been watching cooking shows all my life. My dad had them on constantly. I loved Rick Stein and Keith Floyd and Gordon Ramsay on TV. So I felt like I had my training. I knew how to potentially make a cooking show, but I was not.
And your head was naturally even kind of seeing the cameras and the shots and the angles.
So the reason why I got the sort of invested in a crew right from the start was because I was rubbish on camera. I just knew that if my friends were in a band, and they would often like ask all their mates to come and be in the video. And as soon as the camera would turn to me, like my lip would start shaking, and I would get so shy and nervous. So I thought if I can make the production levels decent, it may mask my really bad presentation style. It didn't. It just made me look even more nervous and shy, to be honest with you.
But I think that's the real beauty about you. You've this gentle,
slow,
presence, integrated, beautiful way that you talk, and I think there's a vulnerability which is so many of us can relate. And like when I watch your videos, they're like, it's almost like, he's so lovely.
Oh, jeez. I get the same thing from you guys, honestly, and I think
you don't have to keep saying that.
No, it's true. It's true, and looking back now at the early videos, I just find it awkward. There is endearment, I guess, but then there's just awkwardness, and now I can't even watch them. So it's a shame. But the YouTube started because I just wanted to show people how to make the recipes.
And you just invested. You just said, right, I'm going for it. I'm going to invest in this. We're going to go high production. Rick Stein, here I come.
Yeah. Well, I just thought let me just I couldn't do it on my phone. So I just thought, let me just Google if there's any local film crews. I got a credit card. I don't recommend it. Got a credit card, and then
you just risked it. You were just like, right, we're going for this.
And I couldn't film at my parents' house because we had a very small kitchen. And I thought, well, what's the next best thing? I'll go on Airbnb looking for a nice kitchen in a nice house. So I booked this house. And then I met the Airbnb owner, turned up. Oh yeah, it's just me staying this weekend, or me and my girlfriend at the time, just us. And he said, oh great, be careful there's some old like furniture in here. Yeah, no problem. Like an hour later, this crew turns up with all these cases and rearranges the kitchen basically with all this equipment. It was really, we didn't tell him, but you probably saw it years later. And yeah, those first, I think it's 5 videos we shot, I was so awkward. I was so stiff. I felt so uncomfortable, and I didn't have, as much as I had an eye for what a good cooking show should entail, I didn't really know anything about the technical aspect of cameras and the right shots. So I didn't really direct at that point. But after I saw the results of those videos, I was like, right, if I'm going to do this, I've got to really guide and, talk about what angles I want. And I actually wasn't going to continue because I felt so awkward doing it. But a lady came over to me at a vegan festival and said that my videos had saved her Christmas, because I did a Christmas dinner on one of the videos. So I was like, oh, okay, this actually can help people. So I continued doing it then. And
how about what role did fear have? Because anyone getting a credit card and going, feck it, I'm going to launch a YouTube channel, I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to rent an Airbnb, I'm going to get a production crew in, I don't know where this is going, I don't know how I'm going to get an economic return for this, but I'm going to do it. Like, what role did fear have? Or how did you manage to quieten fear, or even bring fear along the journey, but still go for what you believed in?
Yeah, well, I guess I could ask you the same question, because you've built this empire here, and this to me is like the next stage. This is colossal, and the thought of getting a load of land and building a farm is like, that's fear for me. But what I've realized is, over the years of never doing a cookbook before, never starting a YouTube channel, not knowing how to take a good food photo, or not being able to edit photos or videos, you think you can't do it because you've never done it before. But when you do it, you realize that you can pretty much do anything if you do put your mind to it and just invest the time. So I was scared, but I'd got a chef's job when I was 16 and knocked on restaurant doors asking for a job and said I'd work for free. I don't know where I got the confidence to do that, but you're able to do stuff if you just try. I think a lot of the time our self-doubt puts us off, doesn't it, doing things, but I just went for it and
good on you.
Well, which is so interesting is because there's a lot of people I remember we did a tour to schools and we went around asking kids what do they want to be when they were older, and you'd think, oh, I want to be a doctor and engineer. Like there was probably 60% of them said I want to be a YouTuber. And it was like a YouTuber. So everyone has aspiration. They're like, there's so many young kids because they go, oh, that's the ticket to making loads of money. I'm going to have a Lamborghini. I'll probably have a few Lamborghinis. And I already have to work. I don't know what I'm going to spend the money on. It's going to be so easy. But the reality is that they forget that there's a 10-year journey, a massive journey to get to the possibility of that. Yeah. Whereas you started it on a credit card and now you've got 80 million views and you've got more than 1 million subscribers, 1.5 million subscribers. So it's becoming a reality. I don't think you've got a Lamborghini yet. No. You got a farm though. But it's been quite a journey from that. It's been 5 years since you've...
7 years now, I think.
7 years, okay,
YouTube. Yeah.
So 7 years to an overnight success.
It's definitely been a journey. And it's just as hard today, I feel, as it was in the early days, really. But I've been really lucky in lockdown, craving nature and craving sort of a sense of freedom, and also wanting to know where my food came from, led me to move back to Wales and to the countryside.
And you were living in Cardiff?
I was in London at the time,
London, okay,
yeah.
wow.
So I was living just a very normal city life, I guess, but in lockdown I felt trapped. So I decided to move to the country, and I had this desire to learn how to grow food. And that has just transformed the way myself and Tom, who's here, create our videos. We try and put a story behind the recipes now, and we talk about how people become more self-sufficient or how they can preserve the food. And I actually feel more of a chef now than I did when I was actually in the kitchen, because I actually have respect and love and I know where the food is coming from. But before I just thought of it like a product, which is a real shame. And I actually can't wait to have a place where I can serve my homegrown food or even walk people around the farm. Like you guys giving me the tour today, I was like a child in a sweet shop, and I bet you felt so proud to you were picking up the rocket like I've never tasted rocket before in my life, but it was delicious, and I was so grateful of that. Isn't it amazing, that feeling?
Oh, it really is. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I can 100% relate to
Yeah.
it.
And what about your journey kind of into, because we found a similar one that, like, you know, you buy a courgette or you buy a tomato because you're cooking a recipe or you're creating a recipe, and there isn't necessarily that correlation. Like there's almost like a sensitivity or an awareness to, okay, well, how can I move further back the food chain or further back the production chain to kind of go, well, growing is, there's more of a connection to nature. You're going to feel more connected to yourself. And the quality of ingredients, how's that kind of journey been from being a 16-year-old starting in a kitchen, starting a YouTube channel, and now you've kind of come back home nearly, where you're about a homestead nearly. It's about, you know, Gaz's homestead with his chickens and his, you know, your tunnel and...
I mean, there's so much more story now behind everything I do. So, and my recipes, in terms of when I'm creating them, it's what do I have on hand to, how will I make this beetroot shine, for example. And that's fun, creating a story behind, you know, we were just talking before we got on here about, I just made a beetroot pizza I called it. And that was so exciting. Oh yeah, what can I do with my pizza? What can I do with my beetroots? Oh, I'll make a pizza. And
did you make the dough? Like, was beetroot in the dough?
Yeah, so we made a pink dough and topped it with a beetroot ketchup and then roasted beets on top, and then a little Welsh rarebit sauce, cheese sauce on top. And it's so fun. So there's a story there, and it makes beetroots more exciting. So that's really fun. But I always say, it's a bit cliche, I guess, but as my crop roots grow deeper, I found I'm growing deeper to Wales, and I feel a real connection to the land. So that's beautiful. And you know, just I think the way the world is now, you know, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of outside sources distracting us from being happy and present. And I do take on a lot of responsibility, and as you guys know, running a business and YouTube, there's a lot goes on. Yeah, exactly. It's not just turn on the camera and then there you are. There's a lot to do. But when I'm in the garden, I'm miles away, and even if I'm filming in there, I'm so at peace. It's the best thing. And now I really want to encourage, just as much as to encourage people to eat plant-based, but also just to start growing some food, because I realized that I could have done it on my London balcony. I just needed a few buckets and pots. I could have grew quite a lot of food.
I think when you do connect to nature's a totally different rhythm. You go from human being or human doing to human being. Like I know myself. Yeah. Like I'm caught up with, I must be a productive human business person, efficient. And then I know when I get to the farm, it's something like, wow, what was I worried about? Yeah. And I think that connection to nature's a different rhythm to even a town like Greystones, not to mind a city like London. Yeah. And I think,
yeah, and when you're at a farm and all your senses are engaged, you know, your touch when you're harvesting, or your hands are in the soil. I think you work with Charles, and he probably told you about Charles Dowding about the bacteria within the soil. That's like a natural antidepressant. And then, you know, you can smell nature, and sometimes horrible smelling compost, but I love that now. And then, you know, your touch, and I said that already. What else we got? Sights and everything, your ears.
I was thinking there, like, how has your mental health changed, or has it, since moving from London back to nature? And like, you can see you're very lit up by growing vegetables and getting your hands in the soil in the farm. Like, have you found that your own outlook or your mental health has changed for the better, or not? Maybe not.
Yeah, I think it really has. I think I'm definitely more comfortable in my skin, and yeah, it's so tranquil. And I never like to say I struggled with mental health back in the day, but now I feel so more clarity in my mind and happy than ever before. And I think a lot of it is to do with finding that purpose in the garden or in my land, and really being proud of the content that I'm putting out there. Yeah, definitely feel a lot happier.
And do you think there's a link between the quality, like, because if you're growing your own, like, there is you've got so much more respect and so much more reverence and appreciation. Because say I go over to Super Value over there and I buy a courgette, like it's just a courgette. Like, you know, whether if I don't use it and it goes off in the fridge, it's not the end of the world. But when you grow a courgette, you've grown the seedling.
Alessia has.
Yeah, Alessia has. Yeah. Or if it's down at home, like, you know, we used to grow stuff in the house or whatever, and you'd germinate it and you'd have it in the windowsill, and then you'd put it out in the garden, and then, you know, it'd take months.
Yeah.
It's such a long process that when you got a courgette, it wasn't just a courgette. This was the trophy at the end of a long journey. So you really wanted to celebrate it. It's not just so. You're kind of, I think it's more how your whole person is fed rather than just the nutrients which come from the food. Have you found something that? It's hard to put words articulating it, but it seems for us,
Supercharge your courgettes.
it felt like a different experience that, like, you know, there was someone who we talked to that said two of the most primary needs that we have as humans, one is food and one is shelter. Food and shelter, two basic primary needs. And a lot of us outsourced food and we've outsourced shelter because we rent homes, we buy them, and therefore we're looking for meaning. Whereas food and shelter, for millions of years, like food and shelter was what we were trying to...
Gave us purpose.
It took 90% of our attention because we were always looking for food, and you were either moving around trying to build shelter, or it took you so long to build a shelter.
Yeah, there's two things that I think about when it comes to growing food. I think anything that is satisfying in our life comes after a bit of struggle. So whether that's like, you know, the high after a run or going in the cold water, you know, it's hard at the time, and you know, you don't want to go in there, but after it, you're like, thank God I did that. But it's only nice because you've gone through that struggle. And then growing food is like, that waiting game, that patience for it. And so I don't mind, you know, sowing the seeds I actually can't wait to sow the seeds in January, February and March, and know that I'm not going to harvest probably a lot of the food until July, August time. But that's what makes it so exciting. And that's why we respect the ingredients so much more. And that's why it tastes so much better. And the second thing is I really want to, I'm a bit of a control freak. And I think particularly in lockdown and with COVID and everything like that. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that because you may get, I don't know if you're allowed to say the word anymore. But you know, I just felt like a bit helpless and a little bit like reliant on like I outsourced everything. And I feel like growing food is one of the best ways of becoming self-sufficient. You know, if you can feed yourself and your family, then and nourishing food, then that is extremely self-sufficient, and one of the hardest things actually to become self-sufficient at. So it's like I met an amazing farmer in Mexico, and he called it a silent revolution, because it doesn't look like you're holding a revolution when you just build a raised bed and start harvesting your food from there, but really you're like saying F you to the local shop who may be spraying pesticides all over your food, and you're harvesting nourishing food that's going to make you and your family thrive. So it really is a silent revolution, because you're just going about your revolution in peace in the garden. So I like that element of revolution to growing food.
It's nice. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah, it really
and
is.
It gives younger, it's kind of, you know, modern day society, we celebrate technology. It's like Elon Musk, I think we were in the sauna today, and Tash was talking about the Starlings, the satellites that Elon has up in space, and so many modern day society celebrates that, and big results in farming is old fashioned. But it's like you see someone like you really make farming look cool and sexy, and give it meaning and give it purpose, and make people go, yeah, maybe I can do that. Maybe I should get my hands in the soil.
Yeah.
I can.
Honestly, coming here and seeing, you know, I was so excited to see the veg that you had here, and learn that most of it's from the farm, and then visiting the farm is so inspiring for me, because that's exactly what I want to do. And to see you guys doing it is just incredible. And the community aspect that you have here, and everyone knows that when they come here, they're getting a nourishing bowl of organic, delicious food that's just grown down the road. I think what you're doing in this community and the reach that you have on social media is like extremely powerful and revolutionary. So it's amazing what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
That's an adventure.
Okay, one more question before we open it up. I'd love to know about your creative process. So obviously you put out lots of content. You know, it is an art form. There is an art form of creating a recipe, creating a dish, you know, and your content. So how does your creative process work? Or do you even articulate it, or is it something that just happens?
Well, initially it was just me standing behind my kitchen island and saying, right, today I'm making this dish, and we just capture that. which was great. And, you know, the recipes really helped people. But now I'm sort of really delving into the filmmaking process, you know, inspired by people like Anthony Bourdain, and, you know, you featured on Somebody Feed Phil, who's someone else who I love. I just love the aspect of telling people's stories, or telling stories through food itself. And Tom, who I've mentioned a few times, is my right-hand man. And I think we're like the dream team. So I'll come up with a concept, and sometimes they can be as simple as, all right, currently I'm editing a video just on beetroots, how to grow beetroots. And, you know, then I'm like, oh, well, where do beetroots come from? Oh, actually, back in the day, beetroots used to be classed as an aphrodisiac. Oh, let's get that into the story. And that's interesting. And I'll find ways in which how I can use beetroots in ways I haven't used them before. So that's the theme of that video. So yeah, it's about telling stories through food, and the actual process is not as sort of scripted as probably I should do. It's a lot of it comes naturally, and I've got a thing about sort of aesthetics, and, you know, like,
you know that from looking at you.
Not in terms of me so much, but in terms of like the wood and the bowls, and, you
even
know,
the tins. I saw your porcini mushroom one, and I saw these
That's
tins that you pulled your things, and I was like, jeez, you got style, Gaz.
Well, yeah, I needed herbs to take to the woodland to make my...
And of course, in this beautiful little box, I'm like,
as I was leaving, I was like, oh, there's an old tea tin there that I got of some market, and I was like, oh, I'll put my sage and herbs in there. And I saw it in the video, I was like, oh, yes, like that for me is so exciting to get all those. Sometimes I joke that like the setup that I do is like a photographer's dream, which is a bit big-headed, but I really love creating that look, and that's I love doing it for when I'm doing food styling, or, you know, when I have a restaurant. You know, I want it to be like an Instagram dream almost.
Texture,
and is that the dream, that you'd love to have a farm to kind of table restaurant, that type of thing? Is that?
Yeah. So over the years, my plans of having a restaurant has changed, and, you know,
with 3 Michelin stars.
After you finished playing rugby for Wales.
Yeah, I still hold on to that dream. I don't think it'll happen now, but anyways, yeah. So initially, when I was in the kitchens, that was the dream: have a restaurant, you know, traditional in the city, maybe. When I left the industry, I thought, bloody hell, I couldn't do that again. Working in those kitchens is too tough. It's too much of a hard environment. And obviously so many restaurants fail, don't they? It's a hard game. But now living in the countryside, actually prior to that, when I had my audience and I was living in London, I thought, okay, yeah, maybe I could open a restaurant in London. I've got this audience. They've been asking me to open a restaurant for so long, and I'm keen to serve my food. But then since leaving the city and starting to grow my food, I need a farm next to my restaurant. I want to walk my guests around the farm, then they come into the restaurant. But then I was thinking, but then I don't want it to be a real solid graft of, 80-hour weeks and, 60 people a night. It's tough. I don't want to put my staff through that. And I want it to be a bit more calm and tranquil in the kitchen. So my big plan, I haven't shared this with many people because...
It's top secret, Gaz.
Well, it's fine. I actually want to put it out there more because I'm going to need a lot of help with it. And I'm sometimes kind of scared to ask for help. I always overthink that, I'm a burden, but I want some help with it. So I'm going to put it out there. Basically, I want to start an eco-retreat centered around a farm where I rewild a lot of the land. Big market garden in the center, cabins where people can come and stay, and a restaurant on site where I only sort of serve the people that are staying at the retreat, and they have a real experience. So they're not just coming for dinner, but they're coming there for a 5-day wellness, escape to nature retreat where they can help me on the farm, pick the food, and then we go and cook it in the night. We do farm lessons and cooking lessons, and we go and hiking up the local Welsh mountains and foraging in the woods, and just a real amazing place where people can come to escape. So that's the major goal. And I think being able to cook for less people in a more intimate setting each evening, well, then maybe I could get a Michelin star because I'm not going to be running around like a headless chicken. And how involved in the actual day-to-day stuff will I be? I'm not sure at this stage, but I would like to be living there and really sort of hands-on. Probably it would be hard to pull me away from the garden and into the kitchen. I don't know, we'll see. But that's the major plan. And then just using that space as a community hub, just like you've got here. This is amazing to see, knowing that you have your regulars over 20 years and people, like I said before, coming in for a nourishing bowl of food. As much as it will be a sort of closed retreat, I want to make sure that the local community, schools and kids can come and learn. And it'll be the center of everything I do in terms of the show on YouTube as well. Or maybe if we could get a sort of TV deal as well, it would take the pressure off planning that side of things as well. So yeah, that's the major plan. But sometimes I feel like I just want to quit everything and go live off grid and be a little bit of a hermit. So
that's nice.
I think everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
Well, I think if anyone's listening and has a good wad, what do you call it?
Wedge of land, yeah.
Has
Wales.
lots of email Gaz at gazoakley.com.
Yeah, gazoakleychef.com. Gaz at gazoakleychef.com. I couldn't get gazoakley.com because someone took it from me. And they want a fortune for it.
Were they
as well.
handsome?
Sorry?
Were they handsome?
I'm not sure. But yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I think it has to be in Wales because I really want to bring people to Wales. We're a small country, and we're proud. And I think obviously these things often happen in London or outside in England. So I want to bring people to Wales and show them the beauty of it, just like you guys do here. That would be the dream.
I look forward to visiting.
Oh, I can't wait to have you. Yeah, that'd be absolutely amazing. Oh, yeah, that's the dream.
Yes, please. Anyone? Okay, let's open it up for questions. Just any questions. Let's make this a bit more. And Gaz, you're brilliant. So please just shout them out and we'll repeat them. Or raise your hand if you want to be more formal. Yes.
Cool.
So the first question is is there a food nemesis which you'd love to grow, like some vegetable which you've always aspired to grow? Is that right?
Or some food?
Yeah.
Well, I've only been growing food for the last 3 years now, so I'm a baby when it comes to growing food. But I have grown a fair bit, but never been that successful. Broccoli, struggle with broccoli a lot, and not very good at cabbages. I get eaten all the time. I've done a few wheeler cabbages. They were easy, but I was pulling off the leaves because most of them have been eaten by little slugs. And I tried to grow watermelon this year, and I thought if I can grow watermelon in Wales, then I've cracked it.
Then you next to the mangoes.
Yeah,
and soon you go chocolate and coffee.
I wish, yeah. But I managed to grow a watermelon about this big, which is about just bigger than a tennis ball. And it was so funny. We did a live video of me walking around the garden, and I thought I'm going to harvest this watermelon on camera.
The big moment.
Yeah, I thought it was ready. I cut into it and it was completely white in the middle. It hadn't ripened enough. I was so sad, but it was delicious still. So
Tastes
I need
like a cucumber.
a little bit like a cucumber.
Yeah.
Melons and cucumbers are the
Yeah.
same family.
Yeah, I managed to grow a little one. I found it the other day when I was clearing out my tomatoes, and that had a little bit of red inside, and I just enjoyed that on my own in the greenhouse, thinking I did it. But it was literally like a golf ball. So next year,
There's going to be a big watermelon.
And did you grow it in the tunnel or was
in
that
the
outside?
tunnel. The one that I picked that was relatively big was outside actually, just leaning against the greenhouse. So I think it was capturing the
You probably
sun.
want it black, because obviously the sun comes down and it, absorbs the heat if you've got a black surface on it. Maybe,
Yeah, that's
I don't know,
smart.
we haven't tried.
That's smart.
Watermelon's quite.
I think watermelons, out of all the melons, is probably the more difficult because I went to Charles Dowding's farm and he had tons, and I went to
Tons of watermelons.
and cantaloupe and a few varieties
Wow.
actually. And I went to Spicy Moustache, who's another amazing
London,
grower and cook on Instagram, and we spent quite a bit of time together. And he's got a tiny urban garden, which is a bit of a kick in the nuts for me, because I was like, damn, I could have grown.
Comparison, the death of all.
No, it's not that. I was just thinking, damn, I could have grown way earlier, because this guy's proving that you can grow. He grew like 280 kilograms of produce in a space no bigger than I think it's 4x5 meters, so 20 square meters, I think. So don't quote me on that, but it's a tiny little patch with concrete floors. He grew 280 kilograms of food. So and he harvested a melon in London in his little greenhouse. And I was like, okay, next year I've got to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that.
I grew one melon. It was a little a cantaloupe melon, but
nice.
it got pollinated by a cucumber. And I remember I was so delighted. I was cutting it to really impress someone. I can't remember who was there. It just tastes like a cucumber. It was so underwhelming. There's nothing sweet about it. It was like so vegetable-y.
Yeah, but still, there's nothing better than a homegrown cucumber. It's so refreshing.
Yeah,
It's like,
but not if you were expecting a melon.
that's true. True.
Yeah. But hey, there we go. And there was the second part of your question, or did we? Oh, was there a percentage of how much food, like as a homesteader?
Yeah.
And it seems like you've got
yeah.
aspirations to grow a lot of your own food.
Because I know
and
for
eat
the
it.
shop here, we want to grow half of our own produce, and for the kitchen, we want to grow half our own
That's
produce.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in ideal world, it'd be 100%, but you know, we need things. I need things like rice and
And oil.
lentils and oil, and you know, salt is not an issue because I could be going down to Barry Island, which is my closest beach. I think the water's a bit brown, but I'm sure I could harvest some nice sea salt there, and I think that is a dream to get to like 90%. And like, for example, we rely on things like lemon juice, but actually if you try rhubarb juice, it's a great alternative. And that's something I only discovered this year. And things like, I want my capers or olives, or you could use nasturtium seeds and ferment them or cure them. And that's a great alternative. So there's little hacks. And if you think like, what would they be doing like 150 years ago in Wales? You know?
Just wouldn't have been eating rice, potatoes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would like to get to a point where I'm at least 80%. But so next year it'll be a load of chickpeas I want to try and grow. I grew a few soybeans this year, just an experiment to see if I could do that.
And were you able to dry them? And
yeah,
then
yeah.
store
And they dried out on the plant themselves, and I just harvested a few seeds for next year's growing.
And did you try making tempeh or tofu or any of that?
I didn't get that amount. It was literally 6 plants just to see how they grew, but I want to take it to the next level next year. I don't have a big space and I'm on a hill, so it does make things challenging, but the more protein sources and carbohydrate sources I can get, the better. I've got sweet potato in my polytunnel at the minute. I'm yet to harvest that. If that is a success, then you know I'm halfway there then.
Yeah, there was a guy in Wexford who was growing sweet potatoes, and he used to bring them up and sell them to us. So you definitely can grow sweet potatoes is a subtropical plant. It's not like a normal potato. It needs heat, and it's like a vine that goes out and they grow. A tuber, it's a tuber, but it's not like in the ground tuber kind of,
It's taken over the greenhouse, but it's happily like creeped around the tomatoes and everything. What else do I rely on? The thing is, I like hemp seeds on my porridge every morning, oats. But
you could eat pumpkin, pumpkins, just scoop out the seeds.
That's so true. Yeah, but the thing is, even if I'm not 100%, as much local produce as I possibly can, and I really would like to know where everything comes from if I can help it. So that's the goal for me.
And if you can build a community around you, you're equally into growing, you can swap your watermelons for their hemp seeds and then you're getting into a small little local barter and independent revolution.
Yes.
But it might sound like a crazy little game to anyone listening, that idea, but ultimately, like in terms of resilience and food security, like if the world goes boom in some way and there's some kind of issues where like there's only supposedly 7 days of food in most cities, and ultimately then everyone's going, where do I get my food?
Yeah.
And if you've got your kind of food sorted, you've got 90%, well, you have a lot of people come and visiting you. Showing up, I'd imagine there might be some more competition. But there certainly can be that ultimate sense of satisfaction that you are providing, you are really in harmony with the land, and it'll be a very satisfying journey.
Yeah, it's annoying though when you go to the supermarket and I get my essentials like my lentils or, you know.
Avocado.
Yeah, not so much, maybe more bananas I like, but look at my shopping trolley. There's no green or veg. Then I get self-conscious that I got a really unhealthy shopping basket because there's no veg. So I say to the lady when she's checking things, I'm like, I grow most of my veg, just so you know.
And you say it to anyone looking at you as well, like, no, I grow my vegetables. Yeah. Look, I brought some with me.
Soon I'll have really long hair. That's the aim. I'm trying to get it down here. Then people will definitely know I grow food.
She's got long hair. That's funny. That's good crack. I remember there was one month, it must have been back 15 years ago, me and Steve kind of had the idea, right, we're only eating local produce.
This is about 15 years ago.
It's at least 15 years ago. And we had the idea that we were only going to eat local veg for a month, and we ate like it was June, so we thought June, yes, but we didn't realize like in Ireland the produce doesn't really come in till July and August, so we literally had potatoes, onions and a few tomatoes and basil, and we ate spunion. That's what we called it.
Spud and onion.
Spunion. It was spud. It was potato and onion with tomatoes and whatever. And we ate that for probably 2 weeks, and then it was like, I'd have had enough of this game.
That's incredible. I would love to give myself that challenge. So far, I've only done food I've grown one day. I want to try and do it for a month next, which is definitely, one day was easy, but it was like everything. So that's when I used the rhubarb instead of lemon juice.
Well, that's when you kind of really need beans.
Growing grains where you're getting a carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Like I know
Otherwise you get
our
hungry.
friend Charles Dowding would often grow a small row of rye,
Yeah.
like rye wheat, a variety of wheat. He'd mill it and then he'd make his own simple
Yeah.
sourdough rye bread out of it.
That's
And something
right.
like so nourishing
Yeah.
to be that full cycle.
Yeah, I grew a load of quinoa this year actually,
Nice.
and that was just an experiment. But I know next year I'm going to have a load of that. But I think when I'm really getting into my foraging. I'm looking at sort of old books, and there's a load of like tubers out there in the wild that we've sort of lost touch with that we used to eat centuries ago. So I'd be really keen to like look into that, and I'm always thinking, what we could make a video out of that or a film out of that, and that's really interesting. So maybe discovering some of these old foods that we'd lost. Like when we think of nuts, we just think of like Brazil nuts, walnuts, cashews, but we've actually got a load of nuts in the UK and Ireland. Cob nuts, hazelnuts are right in season now. So, and that's something I haven't put any research or looked into, but let me just try and find these. So I would love to be getting onto that mindset.
The thing though about local tubers is like, there's a reason why they've kind of fallen off. Because if you go find like dandelion roots and you get these long tap roots, they don't taste sweet. Our palates are so into sweet. They taste bitter and acidic. They're really healthy, but you want to be really hungry.
Yeah,
that was my experience.
Yeah, we were out in the West and we were doing a TV pilot, and we had this amazing forager, and she was getting some of the weirdest stuff. And
really?
it was amazing. And it was fascinating. It was amazing to try one leaf and then go, come on, let's go to the shop.
And we made a salad and it was like, that was interesting. Or something to eat with, because it was just, our palate isn't used to that kind of really deeply bitter.
Yeah, but we were probably just eating it just for the nourishment back in the day, really. Yeah. But you go into, like when I go into the woodland, picking mushrooms and picking wood sorrel. Like wood sorrel, it doesn't fill you up, but so delicious. It's fizzy. This would be brilliant on any Michelin star plate. So it is out there. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find some good tubers. Dandelion root as well is so incredibly medicinal as well. And it's something that,
tastes a little medicinal too.
Yeah, it does. But, have you ground it up into coffee before?
You get a roast.
Yeah, it's really good, right? And unfortunately, it's treated like a weed and tried to get rid of, which is a shame.
Han, I saw your hand.
Do you want to repeat the question?
Yeah, you can try repeating that one.
Okay.
How do you
you have this wonderful dream of having your eco retreat and possibly a Michelin star restaurant, part-time restaurant on it.
Yeah.
So you can still have a lovely lifestyle and go foraging the wood and get your wood sorrel, etc., etc. And how have you thought to take this further and to kind of inspire people? We live in a generation now where 60% of food consumed in Ireland and the UK is ultra-processed food.
Yeah.
Obesity is just on a huge rise.
The average person consumes about 100 kilos of meat a year. That's the average person. So I think what you're getting at, Han, is that there's great capacity to change and inspires others to change. And like obviously growing your own food it will be a gateway to some people to kind of get them to change their diets and eat more plant-based and that kind of way.
Yeah. Well, I feel that's where my love for film and making videos with Tom is going to be my way of reaching a far field. So when I start the eco retreat, I don't plan on stopping creating videos because I really love doing it. So that's always been my way of reaching a wider audience. And I always would say that food is my activism in a way and using social media to put that out there and encourage people. So the power of social media is so big these days that I need to utilize it to spread my message. And if I can encourage just one person to grow food, then I'm over the moon. I definitely feel like I've done that, and encourage people, to incorporate more plant-based meals in their lifestyle. And social media has been the tool for me to do that up until this point. And that eco retreat is other than the pop-up restaurants I've done, is a way in which I can be more tangible and do more in-person stuff. Because I crave what you're doing here, and seeing you bounce around and knowing everyone's name and chatting to people and giving people food is what I really want to do. So it's just finding that balance between the social media side of things and the in-person stuff.
So I think the question there is about your 3 years grown veg. How do you learn? How do you evolve? And how are you making sure that you're evolving your process from where you've been in the past?
Yeah. So like a lot of things these days, I learned a lot of growing food in the University of YouTube, really. So prior to moving to my place, it was like it took 3 months for the sale to go through of my house, and in that 3 months, I planned what seeds I was sowing and how many beds I would have. So I really used that time to use YouTube, and there's so many amazing gardeners out there on YouTube. Charles Dowden, who we mentioned, Hugh Richards, Moth and Ali. Oh God, there's so many people. There's 3 for you to look at. But nature's the best teacher. So, I sowed the first thing I did was sow a load of seeds in one bed, and then realized that, oh, damn, that's way too much to be putting in one space. And I'm just learning as I go. But actually, the more I do it, the more natural it's feeling. It does. Would you agree with me that it feels like a very natural thing to be doing? I always use an analogy that it's like when you have sex for the first time, you just know how to do it. But actually, that's really wrong for me because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was very embarrassing. But yeah, it does come natural.
I'm sure you look good though.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to picture it either. But yeah, sowing the seeds, it comes natural, and I think YouTube is an amazing way of learning. The size of my garden isn't that big, and I'm on a hill, but actually I've learned that being on the hill
is a south-facing hill.
That's right. So working with
the water will tend to drain well.
Exactly. Yeah. So working with my environment, and I having the hill, it's like a solar panel almost. It's directing. It's sort of facing the sun more. You wouldn't put a solar panel flat. You want it up. So my hill actually gets more sun. So that's good. And just trial and error. And what I've noticed actually, the importance of the soil itself is so big. So I'm really getting nerdy about my compost and my compost heap, and trying to build that vitality. Because as soon as you got really rich soil, you're going to grow some good food. So that's what I've been doing. And
enriching the soil with anything, with seaweeds or mushroom, fungal enhancers or things like that?
Well, I've recently adopted some chickens, so they're my compost machines, and I'll give them a good life, and they'll poop a load and enrich my soil. So
do you keep them in a kind of pen and move the pen round, or how do you stop them going eating your carrots?
They've got a large portion of the top of the hill, so they don't go near the food, but they get a load of my scraps. They are the most well-fed 6 chickens, I think, in the world, which is great. So
and what do vegan people that kind of go, what do you have chickens for?
Yeah.
You're meant to be a vegan person. Have you got much stick about that?
Yeah, I did. I got a lot of prejudgment, and there was I don't really look at the hate too much. Occasionally, if I'm in a bad mood, you'll react to it, and that's just nature, really, But there's a lot of sort of judgmental people, and Reddit bloody threads on me when bitching about why I got chickens, but they didn't realize that they were due to be slaughtered and they were adopted. But I think that's one thing that's missing from. We haven't touched on it that much because there's been a really positive chat, but in terms of that vegan community that I was well and truly part of, and still am for a number of years, it's like a big echo chamber, and it's very divisive to a lot of people. And sometimes as I said before, my activism was always just showing people how good the food could be, and I wouldn't necessarily be too preachy, I guess, about it. And often I would notice that there is really divisive characters within various different groups, and I didn't really want to be associated with that. And I noticed them big time when I got the chickens. I was like, oh, this doesn't fill me with that much confidence about the community I'm in. But having posted and cleared up the reasons why I got these chickens, I've had a warm response to it. But you can't please everyone, and you just got to do your best. And if people are mad that I give excess eggs to friends and family, then I'm sorry. That's what I feel is right at the time. I make sure the chickens have their share of the eggs they produce, and they get a lot of nutrients from eating their own eggs, which sounds weird, and it did to me at first, but you have to give loads of eggs back to the chickens. But any excess, and they don't lay every day, will go to friends and family, and I feel that's a good way of stopping them buying eggs from, the more cruel egg farmers, you know, because
And then do you find their poo, their fertilizer? Well, we call it fertilizer,
Yeah.
but really it's just chicken shit.
it is.
Do you find it really helps the vegetables prosper
Yeah.
and
I've
become
got-
more vigorous?
I don't know yet because I've only had the chickens for about 4 months, so I will know next year when that compost is broken down. But I'm sure it will. I mean,
Of
that's
course, you're bringing more biodiversity,
Exactly.
more bacterial.
yeah. They are compost machines. They can make compost their poo so much faster than I can by stacking it all up. So it's just supercharged. It's going to
Suppose it goes
supercharge the
into
soil.
like they eat grass, it goes into 37 degrees and all
Yeah.
these microbes just digest it and out it comes.
Yeah.
24 hours later it's
Yeah.
a little pellet.
Yeah.
It is a really
Exactly. Yeah.
clever system, much better than piling it up.
Yeah. Well, I heard a story from a friend of mine who was a builder in London, and they were sort of tearing down one of these old houses, and they had a compostable toilet in the back from years ago. And where this compostable toilet has just had a load of poop going in it from humans over years, the soil all around that compost toilet was incredibly fertile and rich, and
I'd say it
and,
was.
and they probably could have grew anything in it. So actually, maybe I'm thinking, what should I do with my poop? Should I start my own compost?
You're a human
Yeah,
spirit.
so-
There was you spent time on a farm
I've
where they
been on a lot. Yeah,
they
I've
were
been
doing that. They had like
Harvest their own
sawdust.
human
They
urine.
compost toilets and
And
they were
uric
compost.
acid is one of the quickest things to break down compost. So everyone would go and piss on the compost heap.
Yeah, I do that.
And as well as
And then they were growing their, I don't know if they were growing the food that they were eating. Like, and that's the one thing which Charles Dowding said is that realistically, and Charles Dowding, if anyone doesn't know, he's the guy who pioneered no-dig farming. He's been at it for like 40 years, organic farming. He's an amazing, like he's such a hands-on man of the earth. He really, really is. And he kind of said that the only thing that's missing, he's trying to keep his system, the nutrients that they consistently come back. And it's like nature. No nutrients is wasted.
So he sells his veg to his community, and ideally they should give them their shit back, and then he uses that with compost, and then no nutrients are lost within the cycle.
Because otherwise you've got a
and it sounds
consistent-
weird, but it's literally to
the
minimize
nutrient,
nutrient
it's
loss.
closing the nutrient loop, and
Yeah.
it's at the moment we've as a society it's like human, oh my god, poo's disgusting, and like we haven't got there, and I haven't got there.
No.
Just to clarify, but there are people out there that are pushing the boundaries. You do hear about it in Africa, and you do hear about it. Like you stated, an intentional community in Missouri that they were doing this. They were using human earth to fertilize their plants. So there are people doing it. So I'm sure in 20 or 30 years' time, we'll see. It may work, or they may be
hopefully
dead.
we
I
go
don't
back
know.
to I think especially on a plant-based diet too, for that resource, it's way better than having meat in your system and
All the hormones and whatnot.
so I would be very comfortable spreading my poop around the farm once it's broken down. You don't put fresh poop on it. You let it break down and you let it decompose,
And
it
you
won't
mix it in,
It
yeah.
won't even have an odor, but they say to put it around like fruit trees rather than on like a top layer of where your kale is, for example.
Where's my kale brown?
But
Your kale has a funny taste.
but a bit of dirt never hurt.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Gaz, any chef that really stands out as one person that really inspires you, and they got it right. They're your North Star.
North Star, yeah.
Well, I'm certainly inspired being here, guys. So congratulations on everything. This is amazing what you've managed to set up here. So especially with the products as well. Incredible. Early days, Gordon Ramsay and Marco Pierre White were some of my heroes, and probably younger than that, actually, as I said before, Keith Floyd and Rick Stein. And actually, Rick Stein, I was so lucky, and I don't know if I can share this information now, but I'm going to do it anyway. But he actually came to Wales, and he came to my homestead a few months ago and featured me on his show. And like, me and my dad were like fanboys. It was incredible. Yeah, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I cooked him a Welsh rarebit in the garden.
A Welsh rarebit?
A Welsh fancy
It
cheese.
sounds like a rabbit.
Fancy cheese on toast it is, but I just made a plant-based version.
And how did you make the cheese?
I make a roux with butter and flour, but I add leek in it. Obviously, it's Welsh leek, garlic. Just cook that down. Add some salt, add some flour. Then, obviously, to create a roux, and then to glaze with some Welsh ale. That's a really sort of umami flavour, and I also add things like miso paste and mustard, which obviously isn't traditional. But I'm trying to replace the Glamorgan cheese that was often in it, or whatever Welsh cheese you'd want to use in it. And then add a little bit of non-dairy milk, add sage and things, and pepper too, a bit of lemon juice, and it's really cheesy and stringy.
And kind of runny. Like,
yeah, and it caramelizes beautifully too. So, you can put it on a pizza, or I even put it in a cast iron pan, another cast iron pan over the top, and then on bread, by the way, and then put coals on top of the pan in it, because I've been cooking outside for the last 3 years, so I've had to come up with ways to replace my oven, and that really caramelized it beautifully. So yeah, Rick Stein and what he's done in Padstow, not that I've...
What did Rick think you were rare bit though? Sorry, just to go back to...
Yeah, he loved it actually. Yeah, it was just...
And was he as cool as you thought he'd be?
Exactly the same. Yeah, exactly the same as he is on camera. It was just absolutely surreal to be in his presence, and it was so fun. So I think that's coming out this year. In a few months' time, I hope on TV. If I made the cut, that is. And yeah, so what he's done in Padstow with his sort of empire restaurants, that doesn't necessarily appeal to me too much, having a big empire of things, but just, being able to share his passion with his audience that he's grown, through his TV shows, through the food that he cooks, and being able to still travel around the world and meet different people and tell food stories along the way is a dream. I really love making videos, so hopefully I could still be doing it when I'm his age and still have a thriving restaurant or eco retreat, whatever I have.
What age is he?
He's gone 70. Yeah, he did have a nap halfway through filming, which I thought was just like...
Did he go off to his car?
No, he just sat in the seat and had a nap. I'm sure he won't mind me saying it, because they were all having Indian food and beers the night before the cruise. So it's a rock star life he's living still, which is great. And he was on the phone constantly to his restaurants, saying what things to put on the menu. It was super inspiring. Really was. And my dad dug out a book that he'd had for like 20 years and got that signed as well, which is great.
Yeah. That's great. That's really
great
sweet.
One. I'll just ask a question. What were if there was 3 vegetables you were going to grow that are kind of good starter vegetables, what would you start?
Yeah, so I think the best time for you to sow seeds is probably March. With this climate, I start in January because I want to get a head start on peppers, chilies, and watermelon. Not very successfully, and cucumbers and things like that. But in March, I just recommend growing 3 things that you love and you spend most money on in the supermarket. For me, that was kale and chard and carrots. That was the initial things, but onions and garlic as well. But let's say, why don't you sow some kale seeds? Chard is the easiest thing to grow. Beetroot as well is so easy to grow. Carrots have a reputation of being quite hard to grow or hard to get right, but you can direct sow them, and so that's the easiest thing to do. But what I do is start off in little modular trays, and it just makes the whole process of growing a little seedling a lot more, what would you say? They're a bit more protected, aren't they? Less disturbed, yeah.
And then transplant them out, transplant that mold.
So you can start them a little bit sooner. Once they get to about that size, then you can plant them out and they will be in their final home then. So I would just say start with 3 things that you buy a lot and what you really like. And a lot of the information is on the back of a packet, but you can just Google YouTube these days, how to grow carrots. And there's amazing growers out there that just literally have episodes on how to grow a particular veg. Maybe you'll see some of our videos.
Yeah, I like
time. Yeah, beautiful. Any final questions? Okay. Great. Yeah. So question there is, in terms of your content creation, what percentage of it is it like because you're dying to do it, and what percentage is because it'll get views, because your audience wants engagement?
Yeah, and I think that it would be amazing for me to say that I just want to do what I want to do. I don't worry about the views, but really I have to make it successful to continue doing it. So you do take into consideration what the audience wants, and I really did do that in the early days. For example, like my most viewed video is like a high protein meal prep. So I thought, oh, that's doing well, I'll do another one of them. But I was just doing it really to appeal to the masses, I guess. But nowadays it's more so the quality of the content and more what I want to showcase. But I've just noticed that with YouTube, and the reason it's difficult is how to package that video. So in terms of how the thumbnail, is it clickbaity? Basically,
it has to be sensational.
It has to be. So that's the only bit where I think, how can I get it to appeal to the main thing? But the actual content of that actual video is mainly the stuff that I really want to showcase and help inspire people to do so. I'm actually really comfortable to say now that it's just stuff I want to do, which is great. Yeah.
That's a nice way to be.
Yeah.
Okay, final question is for anyone out there who's listening and going, okay, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm dead set on being a YouTuber. You've been at it 7 years and you have smashed it. You've won the gold medal of it. What would 3 kind of tips you'd say to someone who's starting and going, right, I'm serious about this, whether it's food or whether it's vegetables or whatever their niche might be.
Yeah. And I do think there's I think most people with their if they have a passion, they could turn it into a YouTube. My dad, for example, he's great at like refurbishing old tables and chairs and things like that. And I said, we could literally bring the cameras here and you could do a tutorial. I'm sure if it was shot right. So I think that's important. So you can make the best film ever on an iPhone. You don't really need the best camera and the equipment, because as long as there's a storyline and it's gripping, and that's something that I've learned, there needs to be an arc to the story and they need to build up that anticipation within it. So have a good storyline, and that could just be a how-to, so sharing your knowledge on how to make something, or how to, like you said, how to apply makeup in a certain way. So give the viewer something of value. In terms of the camera quality, as I said, you don't necessarily need a really good camera, but it does help. So you could, and you can do what I did and find someone on Google or Twitter to see if there's a local person with a camera. It does make, maybe not the credit card, but it does make the sort of process of the editing a lot easier, because I never knew how to edit prior to doing this when I started. So I needed that help. So think about the editing before you start, because that takes up a long time. What else? And don't forget things like thumbnails and your titles. So make it appealing. Think of the title and the thumbnail like a billboard. I'm still bad at it. I'm still struggle to get people to click on the video. But that's super important. You have to look at like big YouTubers like Mr. Beast, who makes like the most crazy clickbaity titles, but he gets millions of views and he does it right. He's cracked YouTube for that. But I think you can't go wrong with telling a really good story and capturing it right. And think about the little things, those little aesthetics, like you mentioned, that little pot of herbs. Yeah, those little aesthetics are important.
Good one.
So it's a hard question to answer, that is, because I feel, as much as you say I've got the gold medal, I feel like I haven't cracked it still to this day.
Well, relative to someone who's starting, you absolutely have. And I guess there's one thing you forgot there is the consistency.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The perseverance, because if it's taken you 7 years, like it's not a...
Yeah, it's posting, early on it was every Sunday at 6 p.m. every single week.
For how many years did you do that?
At least 3 years. Now it's a little bit more relaxed because the videos take a little bit longer to create, and I think my audience understands that. But at least 2 to 3 times a week we post, and I think keeping the audience engaged and on the journey with you is the key to sort of keeping that audience and entertaining them.
Very good. Brilliant. Well, it's been
if Netflix are listening, please just come save me from YouTube.
Save me from YouTube. There we go. Well, that's what a gold medal, the weight of a gold medal.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. It really is.
You're wonderful.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to spending more time with you tomorrow.
I'm so inspired being here, and it's finally amazing to come and hang out, and it's been a long time coming, so thank you. And thank you to you guys for coming along.
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it.
a million to everyone.